I stood at the sink, hands submerged in warm, soapy water, scrubbing the remnants of yesterday's meal. My mind wandered, lost in the monotony of daily chores. It was just another ordinary day, the kind where each task blended into the next, leaving little room for thoughts beyond the mundane. But just as I was about to rinse off the last plate, the rich aroma of fresh coffee drifted from the kitchen. How could something so simple bring a hint of comfort amidst the chaos of my mind? I glanced out the window, and my heart skipped a beat. There he was, Ethan, parking his car in front of my house. A flood of memories rushed back, memories of childhood days spent together, laughter echoing through our backyard as we chased each other around. But today, the sight of him sent a shiver of anticipation down my spine. What was it about him that stirred something deep within me, something I thought I had buried long ago? As Ethan walked towards my door, I felt a mix of anxiety and excitement swirl inside me. The door creaked open, and there he stood, a warm smile lighting up his face. "Hey. Long time no see," he said, his voice smooth and inviting. I managed to smile, though my heart raced. Ethan looked different, more confident, perhaps even more handsome than I remembered. It was disarming. "Yeah, it's been a while," I replied, forcing my gaze to the floor for a moment. "How have you been?" "Busy with work, but good." "Really good," he said, stepping inside. The smell of his cologne filled the air, mixing with the coffee, creating a potent blend that made my heart pound. He moved toward the kitchen, his eyes scanning the room, and as he caught my gaze, a strange tension crackled between us. I could feel it. It was like an invisible thread pulling us closer, making it hard to breathe. "Is that a leaky faucet I see?" he asked, glancing at the sink. "Yeah, it's been bothering me for a while," I admitted, trying to break the spell. "I've been meaning to call a plumber." "Let me take a look," he offered, rolling up his sleeves. There was something about the way he carried himself, the ease with which he shifted from cousin to handyman, that made me dizzy. Our eyes met again as he focused on the sink, and I felt that familiar rush of nostalgia mingled with something more, something unspoken. "Remember when we used to get into trouble for playing with the plumbing in the old house?" I chuckled, trying to lighten the mood. "Of course. You were always the one to suggest the wild ideas," he replied, a playful grin spreading across his face. "And I was always the one who got caught." His laughter echoed in the room, and for a moment, I forgot the weight of my responsibilities, the strain of my marriage. Instead, I was taken back to a time of innocence, where our connection felt pure and untainted. But now, as I watched him work, I couldn't ignore the flutter in my stomach. As he tightened a bolt, our hands brushed against each other. The contact sent a jolt of electricity through me, and my breath caught in my throat. Did he feel it too? I quickly withdrew my hand, but the moment lingered in the air like a sweet melody, one that threatened to draw me in deeper. "Everything seems to be in order," he finally said, standing up and wiping his hands on a rag. "Just needed a little adjustment." "Thank you," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. It was hard to shake off the tension that hung between us, the uncharted waters we were suddenly navigating. My mind raced with questions. What was I feeling? Why did it feel so good to be close to him? And what did this mean for my life, my choices? As we stood there, the silence stretched thick, a heavy curtain between us. I could sense the shift in our relationship, a turn towards something I never expected. Did I dare to explore it? As the moments passed, Ethan and I fell into a playful banter, the kind that reminded me of our childhood days when everything felt simple and carefree. "Remember how we used to sneak into the cookie jar when we thought no one was looking?" I asked, a smile creeping onto my face. Ethan laughed, his eyes sparkling with mischief. "I still think we got away with it more than we should have." "Your mom never caught on, did she?" "Nope. We were the perfect little thieves," I replied, feeling a warmth spread through me. But beneath the laughter, a moral dilemma loomed over me like a dark cloud. I was married, and Ethan was my cousin. This connection felt both thrilling and forbidden. The laughter faded, replaced by a heavy silence that settled between us. I could feel the air shift, thickening with unspoken words. Our smiles lingered, but my heart raced with a mixture of excitement and fear. "Isn't it funny how things change?" I said softly, trying to break the tension. "Yeah, life has a way of surprising us," he replied, his voice low. Ethan's gaze held mine longer than it should have, and I felt a pull, as if the world around us faded away. Then, out of nowhere, he reached out and touched my hand. It was a simple gesture, a brush of his fingers against my skin, but it sent shivers down my spine. I gasped, my breath hitching in my throat. I hadn't expected that. "Sorry, I didn't mean to," he started, pulling his hand back, but the warmth of his touch lingered, awakening desires I thought I had buried long ago. "No, it's okay," I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. A part of me wanted to pull him closer, to lean into that feeling, but another part screamed that this was wrong. I felt like there was something unsaid between us, Ethan continued, his eyes searching mine for answers. I could see the confusion in his expression. He was feeling it too, the tension, the connection that was both exciting and terrifying. "Maybe there is," I admitted, my heart racing. "But I don't know what to do with that." He stepped closer, and I could smell his cologne, a mix of wood and something fresh that only heightened my awareness of him. "What if we just took a moment to breathe?" "No pressure," he suggested, his voice gentle. "Let's just enjoy being together." I nodded, trying to steady my racing heart. But as we stood close, the world outside felt distant. The sunlight pouring through the window painted everything in a warm glow, and I could feel the pull between us growing stronger. Then, in a moment I couldn't quite comprehend, Ethan leaned in. His lips brushed against mine, soft and tentative at first, but then deepening as if he was tasting something he had longed for. The kiss was electric, igniting every nerve in my body. I was caught between guilt and thrill, the rush of emotions crashing over me like waves. When we finally pulled apart, I was breathless. "What just happened?" I whispered, my heart pounding in my chest. I don't know," Ethan replied, his voice shaky. "But I've wanted to do that for a long time." His honesty struck me like a bolt of lightning. My mind raced with questions. How far was I willing to go in this dangerous game? What would this mean for my marriage? "I shouldn't have kissed you," I said, panic rising in my throat. "I'm married, Ethan." "I know," he replied softly, stepping back but not breaking eye contact. "But I can't help how I feel. There's something between us that's undeniable." I felt torn, my heart battling with my mind. I wanted to explore this connection, to dive deeper into the feelings that had been awakened, but the weight of my commitments loomed over me. How could I reconcile these feelings with the life I had chosen? As silence enveloped us again, I knew one thing for certain: everything had changed in the span of a heartbeat, and I was left standing on the precipice, unsure of where this path would lead. The air felt heavy as we stood there, the kiss lingering like a ghost between us. I could still feel the warmth of Ethan's lips on mine, and my heart raced with confusion. My mind was spinning, and I couldn't shake the words he had just spoken. "I've wanted to do that for a long time." His confession hit me hard. I had always thought of love and loyalty as black and white, but now everything felt blurred. "Ethan, this is all so sudden." "I don't know what to think," I said, my voice shaky. "I get it," he replied, moving a little closer again. "But what if this is something real? Something we both have felt for a long time?" I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. The weight of my choices pressed down on me, and I felt as if I was standing at a crossroads. On one side was the life I had built with my husband, filled with comfort and familiarity. On the other was this new connection with Ethan, intoxicating and thrilling, but also dangerous. "I can't just forget about my marriage," I said, looking down at my hands, twisting them nervously. "I have responsibilities. A life I chose." Ethan's expression softened, and I could see the hurt flash in his eyes. I'm not asking you to forget everything. I just want you to think about what you truly want, he urged gently. Don't you ever wonder if you're really happy? His words struck a chord deep within me. I thought back to my marriage. Sure, there were good moments, but lately, I felt like a shadow of who I used to be. I had buried so many dreams and desires beneath layers of routine and obligation. I don't know, I admitted, feeling tears prick at the corners of my eyes. I thought I was happy, but now everything feels different. Maybe it's time to explore that difference, Ethan suggested, his voice soothing. Remember when we were kids, how we could just be ourselves? No worries, no fears? I nodded slowly. Memories of our childhood flooded my mind, carefree days spent laughing and dreaming without a care in the world. Those were good times, I whispered, feeling a tug in my heart. Exactly. I miss that feeling. Don't you? He pressed, stepping closer again, his eyes searching mine. Yes, I do, I confessed, my heart aching with longing. But I can't just walk away from everything. Then don't walk away. Just take a moment to breathe, to feel, Ethan said, his voice barely above a whisper. Let's just enjoy this time together. Whatever this is between us, it deserves to be explored. I hesitated, torn between desire and guilt. But the way he looked at me, with such intensity, made my heart flutter. What if it leads to something I can't control? I asked, my voice trembling. Sometimes, the best things in life come from the unknown, he replied, his expression earnest. But it's your choice. I'll be here, no matter what you decide. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting his words wash over me. My heart was heavy, but there was a lightness in the air, a feeling of possibility. Maybe I need to think about what I really want, I said finally, opening my eyes to meet his gaze. Just take your time, he said, a soft smile breaking through the tension. I'll be right here. Our eyes locked, and the unspoken connection between us grew stronger. I knew the path ahead would be difficult, but the idea of exploring this new world with Ethan filled me with a sense of hope I hadn't felt in years. As I stood there, with Ethan's presence grounding me, I realized that I was at a turning point. It was time to confront my feelings, to discover who I truly was beneath the layers of obligation. I took a deep breath, ready to step into the unknown, knowing that whatever happened next would change everything. In the aftermath of our kiss, I felt the weight of betrayal heavy on my shoulders. My heart raced as I retreated into myself, trying to process what had just happened. I had crossed a line, and the guilt wrapped around me like a thick fog. I stared at my reflection in the window, searching for the woman I used to be before all this confusion began. As I paced the living room, my mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. I knew I had to confront my husband about my feelings. The thought made my stomach churn, but I couldn't ignore the truth any longer. I took a deep breath and steeled myself for the conversation I had been avoiding. Ethan, I said, turning to him. I need to talk to my husband. He nodded, concern etched on his face. I understand. Just be honest with him. You deserve to be honest with yourself too. With a heavy heart, I picked up my phone and dialed my husband's number. Each ring felt like an eternity. When he finally answered, his voice was warm, but I sensed the undercurrent of worry. Hey, is everything okay? Can you come home? I need to talk to you, I said, my voice trembling. Of course. I'll be there soon. As I hung up, I felt a wave of dread wash over me. I glanced at Ethan, who gave me an encouraging nod. You can do this, he said softly. I waited, pacing back and forth, my heart racing with each passing minute. When my husband walked through the door, a smile lit up his face, but it faded when he saw my expression. What's wrong? He asked, concern evident in his eyes. I've been feeling lost, I admitted, my voice shaking. I need to talk about us. He closed the distance between us, his brow furrowing. What do you mean? I took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. I've been struggling with my feelings. I've felt disconnected from you for a while now, and it's hard for me to ignore it any longer." His eyes widened, and I could see the hurt flash across his face. "Is this about someone else?" he asked, his voice low. I hesitated, the truth hanging heavy in the air. "I kissed Ethan," I finally admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. Silence filled the room like a thick blanket. My husband's face fell, and I could see the pain in his eyes. "How could you?" he asked, his voice trembling. "I didn't plan for it to happen." I was confused, and it just happened, I replied, tears welling up in my eyes. "I care about you, but I've been feeling trapped in my own life." He ran a hand through his hair, frustration etched on his face. "So, what now? Do you want to be with him?" "I don't know." I cried, feeling the weight of my indecision crushing me. "I'm scared of what this means for us." "I didn't want to hurt you." "Then why didn't you talk to me before?" he asked, his voice rising. "We could have worked through this together." "I thought I could bury my feelings," I said, my heart aching. "But the truth is, I've been avoiding what I truly want. I need to figure it out." My husband's expression softened slightly, but the hurt was still there. "I don't want to lose you," he admitted, his voice breaking. "But if you're not happy, what choice do I have?" "I don't want to hurt you," I said, tears streaming down my cheeks. "But I also can't keep pretending that everything is fine when it's not." With that, the conversation took a haunting turn. We laid bare our hearts, exposing the cracks in our relationship that I had long ignored. The more we talked, the more I realized how much I had taken for granted, the love we had, the memories we built together. As my husband spoke about his feelings of neglect, I felt a pang of guilt wash over me. I had focused so much on my own turmoil that I had failed to see his struggles. "Maybe we both need to take some time," he suggested quietly, "to figure out what we really want." I nodded, feeling lost in a sea of uncertainty. "I think you're right," I whispered. "I need to explore my feelings for Ethan, but I also don't want to lose what we have." "Just promise me you will be honest with yourself," he replied, his voice filled with sadness. "I promise," I said, my heart heavy with the weight of our conversation. As he left the room, I felt a mixture of relief and despair. The internal conflict intensified, and I found myself at a crossroads. With Ethan's encouragement, I knew I had to explore my desires, yet the guilt of potentially shattering my family kept me trapped in a cycle of indecision. In that moment, I realized that the journey ahead would not be easy. I had to confront not only my feelings for Ethan, but also the life I had built with my husband. I stood at the edge of a decision that would change everything, and I was terrified of what lay ahead. The days after my conversation with my husband felt heavy, each moment filled with the weight of my choices. I woke up each morning with a knot in my stomach, wondering how I had let things spiral so out of control. The sun streamed through the curtains, but its warmth did little to ease the chill in my heart. I was living in a fog of confusion, torn between my past and an uncertain future. Ethan had been a constant presence, and even though his support was comforting, I couldn't help but feel the guilt gnawing at me. It was one thing to explore my feelings, but it was another to consider leaving my husband for someone I had always known as family. I caught myself wondering, was I really falling for Ethan, or was I just trying to escape the pain of my current life? One afternoon, I found myself sitting at my desk, staring at a blank page. I picked up my pen and began to write. The words flowed, spilling my emotions onto the paper like a dam had broken. Writing had always been my outlet, and now it felt like my only way to find clarity amidst the chaos. "I feel lost," I wrote. "I feel caught between two worlds. One is safe and familiar, but it has grown cold. The other is exciting, but it terrifies me. Why can't I just be happy with what I have?" As I wrote, I could hear Ethan's voice in my head. "You deserve to be happy," he had said. I paused, realizing how true those words were. But what did happiness look like for me? Was it with Ethan, Or was it repairing what was broken with my husband? I closed my notebook, feeling a mix of relief and uncertainty. Just then, Ethan texted me, "Can we talk? I'm worried about you." My heart raced at his message. I knew I wanted to talk to him, but I also felt the weight of my husband's pain lingering in my mind. "I'll be right over," I replied, my fingers trembling slightly as I hit send. When Ethan arrived, the air felt charged with unspoken words. He looked at me with concern, his eyes searching mine for answers. "How are you holding up?" he asked gently, taking a seat across from me. "I'm trying to figure things out," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. I wrote down my feelings, but it only made me more confused. He leaned forward, his expression softening. "Do you want to share what you wrote?" I hesitated, but something in his gaze encouraged me. I took a deep breath and recounted my thoughts, the struggle between my life with my husband and the spark I felt with him. "I feel like I'm at a crossroads," I said. "And I don't know which path to take." Ethan nodded, understanding etched on his face. "It's okay to feel that way. This isn't easy for either of us. But I want you to know that I'm here for you, no matter what you choose." His words wrapped around me like a warm embrace, but a part of me still hesitated. "What if I choose you, Ethan?" I asked, the question hanging heavy in the air. "What does that mean for my marriage? For our family?" "Then we take it one step at a time," he replied, his voice steady. "But you have to be sure this is what you want. I can't be the reason you hurt someone else." I looked down, feeling the weight of his words. I don't want to hurt anyone. But I also can't ignore what I feel for you. Ethan reached across the table and took my hand, sending a jolt of warmth through me. "Just promise me you'll be honest with yourself," he said softly. "I promise," I whispered, tears welling in my eyes. It was a promise I knew I had to keep, not just for Ethan or my husband, but for myself. As the days passed, I started to envision a life beyond my current circumstances. I imagined laughter, passion, and authenticity, everything I had been missing for so long. But with each hopeful thought came reminders of what I would leave behind. The memories of my husband, our shared laughter, and the life we built together haunted me. "I need to think," I finally said, pulling my hand away. "I need space to figure this out." Ethan let out a soft sigh, but he nodded. "I understand. Just remember, I'm here for you." As he left, I felt a strange mix of solace and despair. I was on the brink of change, but the path ahead felt rocky and uncertain. I knew I had to confront my feelings head-on, no matter how painful it might be. The journey was just beginning, and I was both terrified and ready to embrace it. The moment had arrived, and I could feel the weight of it pressing down on me like a thick fog. I stood in front of the mirror, staring at my reflection. My heart raced as I thought about what I had to do. This was the moment of truth. I had to make a choice between the safety of my old life and the thrilling unknown that lay ahead with Ethan. Taking a deep breath, I stepped away from the mirror and made my way to the living room, where my husband sat, lost in thought. He looked up as I entered, his eyes filled with concern. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice gentle but strained. I nodded slowly. "I need to talk to you about something important." My heart thudded in my chest. I had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times in my mind, but now that I was here, words seemed to escape me. He straightened in his seat, the tension in the room palpable. "What is it?" I took a seat across from him, folding my hands together to stop them from shaking. "I've been doing a lot of thinking. About us, about everything." My voice trembled, but I pushed on. "I feel like I've been living in the shadows for a long time, and it's not fair to you or to me." His brow furrowed as he listened. "What do you mean by that?" "I mean, I've been feeling lost," I admitted, feeling tears welling in my eyes. "There's something between me and Ethan that I can't ignore anymore. It's confusing, and it hurts to even say it out loud." The silence hung heavy between us. I could see the hurt wash over his face, and it broke my heart. "So, you're saying you want to be with him?" His voice was barely above a whisper, filled with pain. I swallowed hard. "I don't know if I want to be with him, but I can't keep pretending that nothing is happening. I care about you, but I also feel something real with Ethan, something I can't explain." He looked away, running a hand through his hair. "I thought we were happy. I thought we could work through anything together. But if you're feeling this way," his voice trailed off, and I could see the tears forming in his eyes. "I'm sorry," I said, my heart breaking. "I never intended for this to happen. I didn't plan to fall for Ethan. It just happened." He shook his head, trying to process what I was saying. "How can you do this to us? To our family?" "It's not something I want to do," I replied, my voice cracking. "But I have to be honest about what I'm feeling. I can't keep living a lie." He looked at me, his eyes filled with sadness. "So, what happens now? Do you just walk away?" I felt my heart clench at his words. "I don't want to walk away. I want to understand what this means for both of us. I want us to be honest about our feelings, even if it hurts." He nodded slowly, the pain evident on his face. "I know we've had our problems, but I didn't think it would come to this. I thought we could fix things." I reached out, touching his hand gently. "I want to fix things too, but I have to figure out what I truly want first. I need space to think." He pulled his hand away, the rejection stinging. "Space? Or are you saying you want to be with him?" "I don't know," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "I just need time to understand my feelings. I need to know if this is worth giving up what we have." He took a moment, looking at me as if searching for an answer in my eyes. "If you choose him, what happens to us? What happens to everything we've built?" A wave of guilt washed over me. "I don't want to lose you. I care about you deeply, but I also need to be honest about my feelings. I can't keep living like this." The silence that followed felt heavy. I could see the pain etched on his face, and it tore me apart. "Then maybe it's best if you figure it out on your own," he said quietly, standing up and turning away. I watched him walk away, my heart aching. I knew this was just the beginning of a difficult journey. In that moment, I realized that whatever choice I made would change everything. Ethan's voice echoed in my mind, "You deserve to be happy." But could I truly find happiness in the unknown? As I sat alone in the silence, I understood that love and desire are complicated, often leading us to places we never thought we would go. The journey ahead was uncertain, but it was mine to navigate. Share this story if you believe that love can conquer even the toughest challenges. Leave a comment about a time when unexpected feelings changed your life, and subscribe to the channel for more thrilling stories like this one. Your journey matters, let's navigate it together.